Millions of electronic devices run around us, and their businesses are widespread. But how would anyone feel when these devices just vanished from the surface of the earth with the snap of their fingers? Although replaced by some horrific monsters who can crush everything in sight. Let's see how Sean and his friends survived the global war of electronic monsters and the hazardous destruction of humanity. So, the story begins with Sean and Ben, who are flying for a business trip to Moscow. Sean forbids stopping the electronic device and mocks the air hostess, but a glitch in the navigation system compels him to abide by the rules. The jolt in the airplane is scary and warning. Hence, landing proves to be more chaotic when their business partner betrays them. Skylar steals their idea and presents it to the team in his name. Sean tries to induce a fight and rebels for his cheating, but he calls the security on them. They are shocked to see the cunningness of their partner and their grief over the 12-year-old's loss. To forget their loss, they reach for a bar to lighten up their mood. In the meantime, Anne and Natalie, two friends all dressed up for partying, admire Sean's blog, which helps them find the club. Sean is highly optimistic and advises Ben to think positively. They find a beautiful girl to hit on, but again, Skylar steals their date, too. Skylar is in the same club, teaching them taunting business lessons. However, Sean knows how to handle such stuff and runs his shoes off from the negativity. They pass on to the counter, where Anna and Natalie bump into them. They are both excited to see their blog guys in real life and have a chit-chat with them. Natalie suggests taking a group photo, but the light shuts off suddenly. However, electronic devices have also stopped working. A mysterious phenomenon allures everyone out of their buildings, and something like northern lights appears in the sky. The bright yellow light balls start dividing into multiple others and landing all around the streets. The fireballs start popping out when touching any surface, but an entity still feels inside them. Sean and Ben are among the crowd watching the mesmerizing effect of fireballs, but they are dreadful and dangerous at the same time. The sudden disappearance is shocking, so a police officer moves ahead to check on the phenomenon. But everyone is shocked to see the moment when he turns into a dusty entity. The invisible monster is hazardous to all of humanity because it can convert anything to ashes. The cap and shoes of the policemen fly towards the crowd, leaving them in immense shock. Everyone is out of fits and rushes here and there to save themselves from the same end. The cops try to shoot the invisible thing, but it perishes, tearing the bullet into pieces. The survivors rush to a building for an escape, but the force can trespass into any metallic body. It erupts everything in sight and reveals that nothing could ever stop it. Sean falls on the wet floor, but luckily, Ben drags him out of it. Unfortunately, a middle-aged man gets stuck with the monster and dies immediately from the shock. The monster gets stuck in the corridor, and they get a chance to throw the flame on it. The monster is burnt but unstoppable. It starts roaming around, checking for targets, and destroying everything in range. Skylar and others move to an escape room, but his date is trapped. He doesn't even care to open the door for her and ends up mixing up with the dust in the air. Sean and Ben take their friends Anne and Natalie with each other into any safer place they can. The crowd is hurling like bulls to defend themselves, but in the crowd of selfish people, Sean saves an injured person by dragging him into the hole. The monsters are chasing continuously, and nothing can stop these invisible, electrifying monsters. However, they find a room in the basement, and Skylar also joins in, gasping in fear. Luckily, the monsters can't reach here. It flashes the lights on but can't enter. However, they are all freaking out with the anonymous, unwelcome danger to their lives. Unfortunately, the injured man died from the severity of the wound, and they wrapped his body to avoid the rotting smell. Hence, they are a little bit erratic after spending 5 days in the same room with a dead body. After a few fights and scarce resources, they decide to leave for the embassy. Moreover, the deadly screams and fainting voices of electric attacks have faded, so they can move out with the hope that the monsters are gone. Skylar resists, but they can't be found by any rescue teams if they stay in the same room. Therefore, they move out of the room with some supplies and find a map for guidance. Although it is not a very helpful map, they have to keep going. Suddenly, they find an old lady and ask for help, but she is too scared to talk to anyone and points towards the road. They find a cop's car and approach to find a better map. But a dog is seen barking in the space, which means he is noticing something invisible, most probably the same monster. Sean and Ben are stuck there while others run to a building. The monster scans its presence and rushes to attack, but the car interacts and disrupts its way. It electrifies the car, and the siren starts howling along the empty roads. Luckily, Sean and Ben are rescued by floating under the car and avoiding the monster. Again, they reunite with others, and they thank each other for sticking together. But the road to success is still long, so they start exploring the way out to the embassy. They have realized that electric devices can save them from monsters, therefore, they hang bulbs around their bodies. Moving on, a huge plane is found wrecked in a building, and no life is seen anywhere. Skylar is so scared and avoids taking any risks, but others are continuously trying to get home. He even scares everyone with the wind hitting the glass panes. However, I do not know if any home is still there. But they have to try. They decide to stick around in the same building till the night. They have come to the conclusion that the monsters are more active in the daylight. They amplify devices and find humans through ultrasonic waves. Hence, they decided to find some comfy clothes, so Sean and Natalie visited some rec stores nearby. Natalie strips off in front of Sean, but soon, the monster finds them, and Sean freezes to avoid death. Luckily, it blinks the electric lights and passes through him unharmed. However, Natalie is freaked out. Even though the build is there with her, she crawls in between the closets. Luckily, Sean drags her and motivates her to freeze until the monster passes by. The monster couldn't notice them and pass through them. They are back with their friends and suggest running as soon as possible. It is also revealed that the monster cannot detect their presence when they avoid movements and are connected to a light source. Hence, they reach the embassy, but it is drowned in debris. They find millions of bullets on the ground, and Skylar takes a gun to feel safe. Although they find maps to move ahead, Skylar doesn't want to leave this safe spot. 4 of them enter a building and find some communication devices, which reveal that the whole world is at war. Skylar was right about the no-home theory, but they have to keep looking for some source. A radio phone delivers a message but in Russian. Anne screams to turn it off because these devices lure the monsters. They have to read the message, so they rush out to get Skylar because he knows Russian. He is roaming around the streets and is easily found, but suddenly, the glitches in the devices start predicting that the monster is nearby. Anne and Natalie rush to warn them, but they are already trapped. But Skylar sacrifices himself by buying some time for them. He gets in between and turns to ashes with a strike to the cars. Although he was pointing to a place before dying, they decided to run along the same road. Luckily, they find a place with lights on and bump into it. However, Vika aims the gun at them, predicting their danger to this place, but they are survivors. She let them in, where an old man was also present. They have supplies to run the lights, such as generators, and can block the light through the sensors. They have a cat with electric wires who can survive the monsters as well. And shows them the phone with a message, and Vika translates it for them. It says that a submarine is about to leave for another country with any number of survivors. They have found their ultimate destination, but reaching the submarine on time is a real challenge. The girls leave the room for some supplies, and Anne is asked to lock the cage carefully. However, she mistakenly leaves the door unlatched. Hence, the old man explains the phenomenon of the compressed microwave beam, which is supposed to lower the activity of monsters. It can work to slow down, wound, or even kill the monsters. Sean is hopeful that it will work, but Ben doesn't want to take a risk. Hence, while discussing, Anne and Natalie notice a monster approaching their room. Vika knows a hiding spot because she knows that she can't make it to the room. But Anne is worried about the boys, so she rushes, and Natalie follows. Luckily, they reach it on time but are unable to latch the stuck door properly, and the monster finally gets into the room. Both girls rescue themselves with a glass table, and the old man shoots the microwave beam at it. The monster is unstoppable even after the beam. It can only slow down the process, but soon, the old man is turned to dust. Vika pours some oil tanks on the floor to slow down their activities. Ben and Sean find a way out through the pipeline, and Natalie opens the window to leave the room. She compels Anne to take the risk and reach the window, but the monster approaches and kills her, too. Natalie is in shock, but Sean pushes her out. They rejoin Vika, who takes them towards the road, where a group of weaponeers block their way. However, they also find a monster jumping through the window after putting the whole room on fire. The monster approaches them, but these big men with weapons inflict fire and multiple bullets on them. Luckily, it is defeated by the continuous bombardment of fire. A block of its body wax falls on the earth. Sean takes the block, and the boys explain their weakest point. They know exactly where and when to hit these monsters. They are trained and taken to a survivors' camp. They have a lot of survivors from the nearby areas, and they have been saving lives since the start. They invite them to live with them, but Sean insists on leaving to find their homes. The trained group of warriors decides to join them and take them through the subways. Because it is the safer route. While entering the basement, they throw some lightning clamps to check the monsters. Suddenly, they start blinking, and the monsters approach. They hide through places, and Vika finds the spot behind a pole, but soon, the waves of monstrous attack can reach her. Therefore, Ben hopes to take her away. Unfortunately, the wave strangles his feet, drags it near its zone, and pours it into the dust of the air. He is dead. Even Sean rushes to save him by every means but can't. He is in extreme shock, but Natalie drags him out of the subway and finds a boat. Soon, they reach the boat and take shelter for some time. Sean is in deep grief, but Natalie comforts him with soothing words and gestures. He also wants to say goodbye in return because he doesn't get the chance to say it to his childhood friend. Suddenly, they feel a jolt in the boat and find out that these monsters are not here just to kill humans. Although they are sucking Earth's resources into the sky's line, they are here to steal metals, food, and all other minerals. Astonishingly, the whole building in front of the boat perished and hit them. Sean takes Natalie into the water but can't take her out. She is lost somewhere. She may be hiding somewhere near. The submarine is in sight, But Sean doesn't let the boat flee before they find Natalie. Vika holds the mechanical charge, and they move out to find her. Sean has an explosive gun, and they take the station route. Suddenly, the gun stops working, but Sean keeps on pulling its trigger because the monsters have beeped down their way. Right after he is about to die, the gun finally explodes and freezes the monster for a bit. He can even see the terrific appearance of the monster. Others keep on shooting it with their guns, and finally, it explodes into several pieces. Sean hears Natalie in one of the buses lying behind an open place, but the path to it is extremely dangerous, and their lives are limited. Therefore, they come up with a strategy for using water. Vika also reaches in and explodes the fire to burn them all at once. The monsters are trapped in 4 balls, and they lower their activities by inducing electrifying powers. Soon, Sean finds Natalie on the bus. The environmental charges produce power and let the bus move randomly. Luckily, the monster is defeated by continuous gun shooting, and finally, they explode in pieces, but the bus is uncontrollable. Also, a monster sneaks in and produces waves to reach them. But Sean advises Natalie to take the steering wheel in charge, and he finds his gun stuck again. But he discovers the block of the killed monster and experiments with it. Luckily, it is killed and explodes after a few minutes. The bus also stops because of the low power. Finally, they reach the submarine and request that the warriors join them, but they don't want to leave Moscow. They are relieved to reach the submarine, and Natalie finds a happy text from her mom. They try to kiss, but Vika interrupts. Although they are willing to fight back against the monsters and start a war to get their homeland back.